Welcome to the IonaHoops.com podcast with your host, Guy Flottico.
Season 3, Episode 1 of the IonaHoops.com podcast is here, and we are live. And I said we, that's right. I am here with Sharky, AKA Gaelforce 80 on Twitter. We are here to talk Iona Hoops. We're going to cover a whole bunch of fun stuff. Sharky, Gaelforce. What are we going by today, Sharky or Gaelforce?
Gaelforce.
All right, Gaelforce it is. How you doing?
Good. Thanks for the invite. It's going to be a lot of fun talk about Iona Hoops today.
That's right. We got a lot to cover. We're going to talk about the schedule. We're going to talk about the roster, the new players, and the guys coming back. It's going to be a good episode. But before we get to all that fun stuff, you know it's coming. Iona Iotas.
Iona Iotas.
As we like to say here on this pod, recruiting never ends. Apparently, neither do commitments. The Gales recently received one from Michael Jefferson, a 6'7" wing out of Northwest Florida Community College. If he sounds like a familiar name, he should. He was included in our offer roundup just last episode. Jefferson plays with a high IQ. He's a good passer who can shoot. He's originally a 2023 recruit, but he reclassified to 2022 so he can join the Gales, and will have 3 years to play. He's a 3-star on 247 and on Rivals. And he had offers from Butler, OSU, Tulsa, Sam Houston State, Bowling Green, McNeese State, Southern Mississippi as well. Welcome to the program, Michael.
Iona Iotas.
Finally, we have an announced non-conference schedule. First off, a couple weeks back, the bracket for the Diamond Head Classic, which takes place December 22 to December 25th, the Gales will be taking on SMU in the first round, perhaps a nod to Tyson Jolly. On Thursday, the 22nd at 3 p.m. on ESPNU, and will face either Utah State or Seattle the next day. The other side of the bracket has GW versus Washington State and Pepperdine versus Hawaii, and the Gales will see one of those teams on Christmas Day. And earlier this week, it was announced that Iona would face Princeton at Keene University in New Jersey as part of the Coaches versus Cancer Initiative on December 13th. So that's it. We have 11 games set, finally. Stay tuned for more on the schedule later in this episode.
Iona Iotas.
Recently, it was announced that longtime MAC commish Rich Enser is retiring from that role after the 2022-23 season. The announcement was met with lots of harsh commentary on the message boards and in Twitterverse, with embittered fans venting about everything from MAC tourneys being held in empty arenas to the league not taking larger strides in this most recent era of realignment. My take? Well, as I've gotten older, I've learned not to pretend I know everything about everything. So like so many fans feel that they do. I am sure there are good reasons for the MAC to make the decisions it makes, even if the fans don't see it. Anyway, when you devote 40 years to something the way Enser did, in a world where loyalty has gone the way of the dodo, you deserve credit. Thank you, Rich, for all you've done over the years, and good luck in whatever comes your way next.
I'm going to make him an offer he can't refuse.
With the latest commitment, things are a bit quieter on the offer roundup, but we've got a couple items to report on. How about we've made the final 5 for 2023 recruit Dylan James, a 6'8" power forward out of Winter Haven High School in Florida. A great student with a 4.0 GPA. He's also a 4-star player on Rivals and ESPN. And along with Iona, his finalists include Georgia, Georgia Tech, VCU, and UCF. We offered him back in May, and I haven't seen any word on when his decision is expected, so stay tuned with that. And staying with 2023, Iona also recently offered Jarrett Hall, 6'8", small forward, power forward out of Lebanon, Tennessee, 3-star player on 247 with offers from Florida, Memphis, Jacksonville, SLU, Ole Miss, Radford, Tennessee, Tennessee State, Tennessee Tech, Tulsa, Middle Tennessee, Austin Peay, Richmond, VCU, and NC-A&T. All right, let's get back into our live episode with Sharky, a.k.a. Gaelforce. All right, we're back here with Gaelforce, and we're ready to talk all things Iona basketball right now. And we're going to start by talking about the returning Gales that have us really all pumped up for the season, and there's 6 of them. And we could start with any of them and talk about them for hours and hours, but we'll try to keep that under control a little bit here. Gaelforce, but why don't we start with Walter Clayton? The kid, to me, really came to his own as the year went on last year. I worry about him on the defensive end a little bit. I think some people are worried about the fact that he didn't come through with the free throws against Ryder, but you know what? He's a freshman. It's a big difference. Big difference when you're a freshman. So let's talk more about him there. What do you think about Walter Clayton?
I think he's going to be a star and all-MAC this year. I mean, people forget in high school he was a two-sport star, and now at Iona it was strictly basketball. And you saw the year went on, he just progressed in a positive manner. And I compare him to Jolly. Similar players, just a little smaller, but I think he's going to be a star in the league.
And you know what? Rick Pitino had a great point about that. Similar, and people were talking about the players that we were losing, and he did draw some comparisons between Clayton and Jolly in some areas, and then some areas where maybe they're not so consistent. Let's see what Pitino had to say.
Well, we're certainly, Tyson Jolly was the player of the year in the conference, but he certainly was good at offense, good at defense. I think Walter Clayton Jr. can give us everything that Tyson gave us on offense. I'm not sure he can give us what Tyson gave us on defense. Walter's not the defensive player that Tyson is.
All right. If you're going to talk Iona Gales and key returning players, you have to talk Nelly Jr. Joseph. There's so many positive things you can say. And of course, we're Iona fans. We're going to be positive. The kid's a beast. Everybody knows it. But I think some people wanted to see that angry side of him come out a little more and him be a little more consistent. I do think he did struggle a little bit at times down the stretch last year. It's not a coincidence that the games that he was a little quieter were the games that Iona struggled a little bit. What do you think?
Oh, yeah, and JJ, he had averaged 13, 8, and 2. 60 blocks, 20-something steals, first team all-MAC. And you can honestly say he didn't have a great year because he had a little spot where he struggled a bit, but he's the best big in the MAC by far, and I think he's going to be a double-double guy this year.
Well, I think so, too. What do you think about how Osborne Shima, who, of course, Pitino has joked quite a bit about how the kid just can't put on any weight, but he's playing so well. There's been talk of having Shima play power forward next to Nelly. What do you think about all that?
Shima excites me. We thought he was going to be out the entire season. So he came and he just got better and better and better as the year went on. He wants to dunk everything. Like Guy said, maybe, that rubs off on NJJ a little bit. Shima could start on a majority of the MAC teams.
That's right. He can.
He's got a lot of talent. And the thought of him and NJJ on the court at the same time is just scary.
And now we can switch to another player that Rick Pitino is very high on entering this season, and that's Quinn Lesinsky. Can't say his name right, and we'll show that in a minute in a clip that I'll play from Rick Pitino. But Quinn had his moments last year where he really was carrying the offense, and other times he struggled, and I think he did struggle on the defensive end a bit. But again, newer to the system, just getting comfortable. Now a little more of a prominent role this year. I expect him to have a great year.
Yeah, I think you're going to see the true Quinn. He struggled at times last year, but there were other times he carried the Gales. And even with his on and off shooting, he did finish at 34% from three, which is not bad. And I think that's going to see a bump this year.
And here's what Rick had to say about Quinn.
I do think Quinn Celinski will have a great year. Quinn is much better than he showed last year. And I'm very confident with the adjustment of having a year under his belt, he'll have an outstanding senior year.
All right. A couple other returning players to mention. One of them is, one of my favorite gals in the last few years, Barrick Jean-Louis. People have heard me talk about this probably on the pod, definitely on the boards, definitely on Twitter. His minutes went down as the season wore on last year, and I don't think it was a coincidence that his defensive efficiency on KenPom started to get weaker when Barrick played less. And I actually asked Rick Pitino about that during the recent Zoom press conference.
Definitely a correlation. I don't know how big a correlation, but there is a correlation with Barrick being off the court. But Walter Clayton Jr. has to get a lot better defensively. Danis is a great defensive player. So that's going to be, he's a much better defensive player than we've had. So we got Barrick and Danis, who are both terrific defensive players. Nelly will get better entering his junior year. Quinn is okay to average. He's okay. I expect our numbers. Now, I will say this. We want a low field goal percentage defensively, both from the three as well as the field. We want to have much better rebounding numbers. The one thing we're not going to have is we're not going to keep anybody in the 50s and 60s because we're going to play so fast.
All right. Well, that was Rick Pitino on Barrick. Well, I want to know what you think about Barrick now, Sharky.
Barrick, you know what? Last season was just a tough year for him. He never got going. He was injured, missed all the games in Greece. And he, I think, had a concussion, goes to a game or two, other stuff. His first year, Barrick was an all-MAC type player. He stuffed the stat sheet, 37% from three. I think he bounces back to the first year BGL, and he's going to be the big X factor for Iona this year.
I agree. I think he will have improved his offense enough to stay on the floor, and we know that's the reason why Pitino sat him. Last but not least, we have newly scholarshiped Parker Weiss. Looks like he's probably going to be the fifth guard in the rotation. You know, he knows his role. I love kids like that know their role and they go in and do their job and not try to do too much. Quick thoughts on Parker.
The ultimate team player, captain Parker.
That's right.
And you know what? He comes in and he does what he has to do. He works hard, and he did provide that spark in the Alabama tourney game a couple of years ago. He came in off the bench and he sparked the run. It was the end of the first half, so him having his fifth guard, you can't make much complaints about that.
Yeah, and just to wrap them up here, so we got 6 returning Gales. So there's a good amount of experience here now. Even Walter Clayton is only a sophomore, but has a lot of last season under his belt where he really played a lot down the stretch. A lot of seniors, though, on the team now. This is going to be the core of the team. There's a couple of the new guys that are going to have roles, but this is the core of the team. It's a reason for Iona fans to be excited without question. What, you agree?
Oh, without a doubt. That's, that top 6, if that's the way it's probably going to play out, is as good as anybody in the MAC. They have experience from last year's tough out of conference. It's a good way to start building your team and your roster.
And here's Rick Pitino talking about the veteran class.
Barrick also had a good summer. He's in great shape. What I wanted him to work on is a mid-range game. He was focused too much on spotting up in the corners to shoot threes when he's got to use – he's one of the best top 5 athletes in our conference. He needs to drive more, get to the rim more. He needs to develop a mid-range game in the paint, and he's worked very hard at that this summer. So, we've got Quinn's a senior, Osborne's a senior, Barrick's a senior. Danis has a lot of experience. Walter's got a year under his belt. So all those guys, and Nelly certainly has been all league 2 years in a row. So we've got a lot of talent coming back. We just got to mesh together and be ready for this schedule. This schedule's from the opening game. It's not going to be easy.
All right. Now that we've talked about all those guys coming back and the impact that they're all going to have, it's time to talk about the newest Gales, and there are 7 of them. We have Sadiko Ayo, Cruz Davis, Sunday Silas, Dennis Jenkins, Anton Brookshire, Keither Florence, and as you heard in the Iona Iotas, Michael Jefferson as well. Before we get into each individual player, I wanted to ask you what you thought about Pitino's recruiting philosophy. Lots of guys who have a lot of stars, but not necessarily committing to us. But what do you think of that approach?
You know what? It's good to throw your hat in the ring. I mean, eventually one of these kids is gonna pop. He just wants to play on the Pitino. You have some Dylan James, who I only made the top 5 for. The new Rivals rankings came out 133. He has the high major offers that I was competing against. But you know what? Pitino's going after the studs like that, and he's also going with some under-recruited kids or sleepers who have turned out to be very good so far.
And one thing I've kind of always noticed over the years, you have recruits, half of them work out, half of them really don't. I think we're going to see something similar here. Some of these guys may not have the impact that we all hope. Everybody looks great on paper, and then you get them here, and then they don't do much. But so you'll have to see about that. But there are 3 or 4 certainly that I'm most intrigued by, and I'll start with Dennis Jenkins. I think the kid is exactly what Iona needed to replace Elijah Joyner, and I think he's going to bring it on both ends like Elijah did. Next to Walter Clayton, that's a heck of a backcourt you have forming there. And then you're adding a freshman on top of that, like Cruz Davis, who is a great talent, and Anton Brookshire as well as another guard. And then, so you have some veterans there. You don't know what you're ever going to get out of a freshman. Anton Brookshire we didn't get to see much of him at Missouri. So we'll have to wait to see how much of an impact they have with us. But I'm excited about Dennis Jenkins the most, and of course Cruz Davis over time. What do you think about those 3 guys?
Oh, Jenkins is a star. I mean, number 3 ranked JUCO in the country says something, and people forget he was a double-digit scorer at the D1 level for 2 years. He shoots, he defends, he's positive assist-to-turnover ratio, and I think he's the perfect replacement for Joyner. I don't think we're going to miss too much of a beat with that.
All right, and one guy we didn't mention that everybody was high on, but unfortunately we won't get to see right away is Sadiko Ayo. During the press conference, Pitino said that he had recent surgery and he's going to be out. We might not see him probably until the MAC part of the schedule, I guess it sounds like. Do you think that's going to impact us? I mean, he seems like a natural fit at the 3, playing that small forward for us. Do you think we're actually going to miss him, even though he's only a freshman?
Yeah, I do believe that's a big hit. When you look at Ayo, he's athletic. He's perfect for the Pitino system. And when you look at the roster, he's the only, like what you would call, prototype small forward, 6'7", athletic kid, can step out from 3. I thought he was going to get PT right from the jump. I hate not, having to wait till January to see him, but I thought him and as far as the freshman, Ayo and Cruz Davis, who I also love, I think they're going to contribute from day one.
Okay, and I think everybody now, especially after seeing his latest pictures online, is very curious to see Sunday Silas, who is every bit as tall as Osborne Shima, and now and suddenly, I feel like in a blink of an eye, every bit as cut as Nelly Jr. Joseph at this point. The kid has a great Division I body right now, but is he ready to challenge for minutes on this team?
He has a chance. I mean, when he committed, I'm going to steal a line from Adam Finkelstein. He said, when you're talking about Sunday, it was if he gets in shape. Well, guess what? He's there. Amazingly, it's a transformation. And, he's been said that he's a skilled 7-footer, magnetic hands, a tremendous upside. And now that he's in shape, he's going to be right there. That 3-headed monster in the front court with Nelly, Shima, and Sunday is going to be something the MAC, I think, is going to have a very difficult time handling.
And also Rick Pitino during the Zoom did spend a couple minutes talking about collectively the newcomers he thinks are going to have the biggest impact. Let's see what Rick had to say.
Well, Cruz Davis is a freshman that's outstanding, but he's got to get better defensively. He's got to get stronger, like typical of most freshmen. And this is a kind of an incredible thing. Silas Sunday, I tweeted out the other day, he was, during his high school season, he was 350 pounds. He's a 7-footer from Ireland. And just over 2.5 months this summer, he lost 59 pounds. He's now 249 pounds. His body is totally transformed. Our strength coach, Jason, did an outstanding job with that. So he could see some time. It'll be difficult, but he could see some time. Sadiko's coming off knee surgery. It's a meniscus tear. He probably won't be ready for November. So I look for him to get time, probably sometime in January. Who else? Certainly Anton, a transfer from Missouri. He's going to be ready. And one person that we haven't announced yet, just because it's just some paperwork that he's going to sign, but he'll be coming in on Friday. Another player will be joining us as well.
All right, we want to go back and revisit a couple of these new gals before we move on. We didn't really talk that much about Anton Brookshire. I mentioned that I can see him being part of the rotation, and Keith Florence is a power forward type of player. He's very raw, but it looks like has great athleticism. And Michael Jefferson, again, we're just learning about, so we don't know much about him at all. Out of those three guys, I'm going to bet at least one of them is going to have an impact on this team. Which one would you guess?
I'm going with Brookshire. I think he's going to get, playing time. Iona pretty much has the four guards in Jenkins, Davis, Clayton, and Brookshire. Yeah, he didn't get much PT in Missouri, but you look at tape from high school, and the kid can shoot. I'm not going to go on his three-point shooting from Missouri. He's a player. He was highly recruited, highly ranked. He's going to get plenty of part-time PT. And, I'm excited. That foursome right there for guards in the MAC, can't ask for much more than that.
All right. Well, I think we've covered the roster pretty well there. Well, no, it's true. We didn't say much about Keith Florence. You know what? He's one of those kids that's going to sneak up on us. I have a feeling. This happens every year. It feels like there's that one guy we never hear anything about, and then suddenly he's playing a lot and he's doing well, and it's like, well, where'd this kid come from? So I feel like that could be the kid. Of course, Michael Jefferson could be his too, but we don't know. So, do you know anything about Michael Jefferson that we haven't seen on the line already?
Well, like I said, the JUCO level, he only shot 31% from three, but when you go look at his highlights from AAU, his shot looks good. He's knocking down threes. I think he's a high IQ type player. I don't think he looks overly athletic, but high IQ, assist to turnover ratio of 57 to 34 at the JUCO level. And, I think he's going to fit in. But just, time will tell. He's missed a whole preseason.
Well, and the IQ thing matters because Pitino's system is not simple on both ends of the floor. And you have to, these guys could be gifted basketball players, but if they can't pick up the system on either end, they're not going to get much playing time. And as we already know, if you don't defend, you're not going to get a lot of playing time unless you're scoring a whole lot. So anything else on the roster before we move on?
I just think the roster, how I was looking at it, and pretty much all the players that have played at the D1 or any college level, every single one outside of NJJ has had a positive assist-to-turnover ratio for their career, or right at 1-for-1. So I think this year's team is going to be a very good passing team, and I'm looking forward to see how it all gels together.
All right, let's now get to Iona's non-conference schedule, which, as you heard during the IOTAs, if you were paying attention, the non-conference schedule is now completely set. Let's go through it real quick for you. We're going to open November 7th at home against Penn. November 11th, we'll be at Hofstra. The 18th, we're playing Vermont at Mohegan. I'll see you guys at Tuscany. 26th, Santa Clara in Vegas. Interesting. December 6th, well, that'll be after the MAC weekend. MAC weekend will probably be the first couple days in December there. But then December 6th, home against St. Louis, which might be a top 25 team if all goes well. We'll see. Then the 11th, St. Bonaventure at Barclays. I'll see you guys at Broccolino. The 13th, Princeton at Keene University, which we'll have to do our research on for restaurants around there. Then the 18th, they're going to be at New Mexico at the Pit to see Pitino Jr. And then it's the trip to Hawaii to wrap up the non-conference schedule. The 22nd is SMU. The first game, a shout out again to Tyson Jolly there, former SMU Mustang. Second round game will be either against Utah State or Seattle. And then on Christmas Day, they'll play one of GW, Washington State, Pepperdine, or Hawaii. The schedule doesn't have big names, and yet it's very daunting in my mind. What do you think?
It's a solid schedule. If you guys don't follow Buzz King on Twitter like I do, I would recommend it. As soon as a program releases their schedule, he posts it, he lists details about it, and as of now, Iona is the third highest or lowest, whichever way you want to look at it, of opponents previous year and NET, I guess it's called, right? The net ratings, they're at 101 behind St. Mary's and Seton Hall. So it's a solid schedule. According to Buzz, he thinks it's a type of schedule that can lead to an at-large if, Iona does what they got to do.
Yeah, there are no cupcakes anywhere to be found here. and there's a lot of opportunities. This is a good, before we get to some of these games a little closer, let's talk about Pitino's approach to scheduling. Okay, so he's thinking still like we're going to be building into a superpower mid-major, doesn't want to play guarantee games, doesn't want to do games in small, especially road games at a small teams, smaller schools gym. So there's very few road games in general. Again, we're looking at a scheduler that has 2 home games, 2 true road games, and then 7 neutral site games. What do you think? Is that a little delusional to schedule like that if you're an Iona, or do you like the direction?
I mean, as a fan, sure, I'd like to see a couple more home games, of course. Would like to see a couple high major games on there, of course. But the goal is to build this into it's a process to build the program up, and this schedule does that as far as any possibility of an at-large type of bid at the end of the year. People are going to look and say, oh, there's no high majors, but when you get into the meat of it, it's very solid. And, probably better than last year's schedule.
Yeah, the computers are everything. And when you look at some of those computer and analytics as the year wears on, this schedule is going to look really good because we're not playing teams at home and we're playing good teams on top of that. So I don't mind it. Would you like to see a couple of big names on here? Something really get fans juiced up? Sure. I'm praying that the St. Louis game is a top 25 game coming in because we can use that kind of buzz and that kind of juice, especially at a home game. And speaking of juice, one of the things that was brought up to Rick Pitino during the Zoom conference the other night was the fan situation in terms of travel, attending home games. Now, I think the attendance at home is pretty good. We're not selling out every game, but we're doing pretty well. And then I guess one of the pet peeves Pitino has is the fans are just not hitting the road with the team. I'm gonna say that it's not as easy as Rick's making it sound for people to go on the road. I kind of wish that the Santa Clara game in Vegas and the game at New Mexico were closer together on the calendar. If they're 2-3 days apart, those games, it's much easier to go out there for the couple of games rather than trying to go all the way to Vegas for one game against a mid-major. So it's, sometimes you can't control that. It depends what the other teams have available, but that would have been nice and would have been something that I would have ensured to be at those 2 games. I know other fans will be there, but to me to have that split up did not help. The Hawaii tournament is a great event. Hey, who doesn't want to go to Hawaii? Christmas is hard. And for me personally, it's hard because my family hosts other families on Christmas Eve and Christmas Day. So I can't just take off the week of Christmas like that for a week in Hawaii. So there are challenges like that. That said, those 5 games aside, I'll be at all the rest of these games, the other 6 games. So what do you think about the way we schedule? Do you in terms of getting teams to come to New Rochelle to watch the Gales play, and then do you like the approach of having these arena games nearby where we can get fans to go? And what else can Iona do to get fans to go?
Well, I mean, I love the high major games, but you know what? The schedule fits. It's unfortunate that Holloway, backed out of the game in MSG. That was a big hit to the schedule.
Chicken.
And you know what? Recently, I think it was Belmont, was another high caliber mid-major. They released their schedule, and it's almost the identical philosophy, that Rick and Iona have. I'd rather play a very good mid-major than a crappy high major, because that's like the guy said, that's with analytics and all that number stuff, which I'm not big on. I'm old school, but that helps. That's how it works, I guess.
Okay. Looking at some of these individual games, Penn, they'll probably be projected top half of the Ivy, but it is at home. It's a game we expect to win. It might be, crazily enough, one of the easier games on our non-conference schedule is Penn at home. So hopefully that's a good way for us to get our feet wet. But the rest of these games, it's a murderer's row. I mean, at Hofstra, it's going to be a tough game. Vermont at a neutral site in Mohegan, that's no joke. Flying all the way out west to play a good Santa Clara team, hosting St. Louis, Bonaventure at Barclays, when Bonaventure has a great alumni base in the New York area, and they'll probably have a good number of fans at that. Princeton at a neutral site, at New Mexico. I mean, these are, there's not too many, there's no cupcakes in here. But I look forward to a lot of these games. I love the arena games. I really like the games in Brooklyn because it is part of a much bigger event where you have several big schools there and some semblance of a crowd. I'm really happy that this year we're actually in the middle of the 4 games. Last year, I think we were the 4th of the 4 games and everybody cleared out by the time we took the floor with Yale. I think this year we're the 3rd game. So there's going to be a game with more fans than Iona has after us. So we expect a much more fuller Barclays for that one. So I'm looking forward to that. I am curious to see what happens with Mohegan. That's part of the doubleheader with Rutgers and Temple. So 2 schools that are somewhat regional that can get fans there for that one. Will that game draw 5,000, 10,000? Probably not 10, but could it draw 5,000? Maybe. Vermont probably will travel well to that. I'm sure Iona fans will get up there. But again, I talk about that Vegas game and I talk about New Mexico. I just don't know how many Iona fans you're going to get to go to one-shot deals that far away or to Hawaii over Christmas. And again, the question I get asked about Princeton, why are we playing this at a Division III gym? Because they wanted a neutral site, and I'm assuming none of the arenas in Jersey were available that night. So tricky. Scheduling is no joke. And all you have to do is sit down with somebody like Brian Byer for a few minutes, and you can start to understand that. Or even somebody like Casey Stanley back when he was still here before he ditched us. No insult there, Casey, and congratulations on the baby. But you talk to these guys who are involved with the scheduling, and you realize this is just not as easy as people think. So now I'll give you a moment to talk about some of the highlights of the schedule in your mind.
You pretty much covered it all. It's a solid schedule, tough games, a couple on the road, neutral site. I mean,
what are you looking forward to the most?
Well, because I'm going to. Good one.
It's hard. It's a lot.
There's a lot of good ones. I guess the Vermont game at Mohegan, they seem to have reloaded from what I have, read on Twitter. St. Bonnie's at Barkley. I know St. Bonnie's lost a lot, but it appears they also recruited very, very well. So they're going to be a tough game too. And believe it or not, they might be the so-called weakest of the schedule. And that's saying something if they turn out to be the weakest out of conference schedule.
Any very quick top of mind prediction for those 11 games, what Iona's record is going to be?
I think Iona fans are going to have to be a little patient. Let's not expect last year, but I'm always on the negative side, let's be honest. I mean, the 11 games, I would be happy with 6-5, and I know I'm going to get slammed on the Iona board for saying that. But you give me 6-5, getting all these new players to mesh, and I think Iona's on the run.
I don't know if you'll get killed because the first number that hit me was 6-5. And that's the optimistic view. You don't want to say, well, geez, I think the best we can do against this tough schedule is go 5-6. No, I think we'll be better than that. I think 6-5 is a reasonable record against this schedule. It's not at large worthy to go 6-5 against the schedule. I think they probably need to go something more like 9-2. That might be asking a bit much, given that we need time to mesh. So we will see how that goes. All right. Now that we've gotten through Iona's schedule, we're going to talk a little bit about some MAC stuff. Now, this is not our official MAC predictions. We haven't. It's August, people. Calm down. All right. We have time on that stuff. We will give full predictions. I'm sure you'll see us on Twitter and on the boards and all that. This is just a high-level, friendly discussion about where we think some of our MAC teams are going to land. My thoughts. I think people have seen me say it a few times right now. I'm high on Ryder. I was high on Ryder last year and I got burned by it. I'm gonna ride Kevin Baggett one more time, and I think Ryder is going to finish in the top 2 in the MAC. I think they have potential to be the best team in the MAC if Iona doesn't gel the way we kind of hope that they do and expect them to. But at the very least, I think they'll be right there, not too far behind us. And I actually think Siena is a safe pick for that 3rd spot. I know there's going to be some disagreement on that one, but I've been burned by it too many times. I don't like Carm. People know this. I don't think he is a kid's coach. I think he's got some problems, and I think he's thrown people under the bus at times in the media. But he does win. He gets guys to play his system and he wins. So that's my quick looking top 3, but this is the MAC, and really anywhere from 2 to like 11 is like a coin flip, as we all know, like every year in this league. But If you made me pick a top 3 right now, that's what I'd give you.
Well, it's funny. I'll save my Siena comments for a second. I was kind to you guys on Twitter today. Just remember that. Ryder, everybody picks him second. I'm looking at the roster, and yeah, they have Murray and Powell and James and a couple other guys, but they burn me every year, but I love Quinnipiac and Manhattan. And every year Masiello and Dunleavy make me look like an idiot. Quinnipiac is loaded. They have 5, 6 very talented guards. They brought in 3 6'8" type kids that if they play up to their hype, Quinnipiac's going to be a problem. Same with Manhattan. They have lots of talent.
Yeah, and you brought up a point that's valid, and it's representative of about 5 different teams in the MAC that, you look at their rosters and it's like, wow, they got a lot of talent. And then you look up in February and they're in 7th place. And it's like, how? Wait a minute, what are these guys doing? So there's like 5 schools you can say that about in the MAC every year. So we will see about all that. One team I want to ask you about. We have a newbie in our league this year, and Mount St. Mary's. Any thoughts on where you think, or because they're such a mystery, everybody's just going to pick them like 11th?
I have no idea about Mount St. Mary's, to be honest. Just except reading articles, it sounds like some that have seen them play and know the MAC think they could finish mid-pack. I'm not really sure about their roster, but I don't know. They're the total X factor, I guess.
And I did that last year, like when I was doing one of my preview episodes. I actually think I made a case for every team in the MAC to finish in the top 5. And I think I could probably do that again. Well, I'm pretty sure I can do that again. And I would count Mount St. Mary's among those. They're usually the bottom doesn't fall out on that program. They do pretty well each year. I don't expect a huge. I mean, let's face it. I mean, yeah, there's Iona and some others in terms of having talent that goes beyond the typical MAC teams, but really Mount St. Mary's is not like below MAC level in talent and ability and coaching and all that. I think they have a legitimate chance to finish in the top 5. There's nobody right now that I'm looking at and like, wow, this team looks awful. They're going to finish 11th. There's just nobody.
Yeah, I mean, my top 5, and I guess obviously it's early, there's still open scholarships. I have Iona, Quinnipiac, Manhattan, Ryder, and Fairfield. So those 4 teams do return some good talent, recruited, fairly well. And you know what? They're mostly upperclassmen, which does, mean something in the MAC. Yeah. So, in Siena, I have them like bordering 6th. I don't know. Their record has gone back every year since as the roster fills with Calms players. That's a fact. I know I'm going to get bashed on Twitter, but, so be it. Yeah, he wins. They could sneak up. But right now I have them out of the top 5.
I see a poster board with a Gaelforce tweet like in the locker room of Siena and Carm getting the troops rallied, with the hashtag, go get them, something, who knows. Anyway, so yeah, the MAC adventures are coming. We'll definitely spend more time in upcoming episodes. We're going to have lots of great guests over the course of the next couple months to preview the season and all that. But before we wrap it up here, there's a couple of things I wanted to hit on with you. First of all, just let's talk about the MAC tournament. One of the hot topics that came out in the last week or two with the announcement that Rich Enser is in his final year as commissioner of the MAC, the tournament setting. There's a true divide, a true division. Do we have the tournament in an arena because we're not a low major league? We should play it in a neutral site, in an arena, even though only X number of fans show up. Or do we just admit, hey, maybe we're not a big conference. We should just do follow the NEC or America East model where the tournament's on the higher seeds floor and the highest seed remaining plays, on their home court for a game. It would be, imagine Heinz Center playing in a MAC final, hosting Ryder in front of completely sold out Heinz Center. I mean, that would be kind of a cool vision. At the same time, it screams low major to me, and I'd rather do it in an arena. That's just my take. What do you think?
Yeah, I can see the argument for doing it on home courts. I mean, I remember the Bryant, I guess it was the Wagner game, which turned into a zoo with fights and everything else. But I go toward the rotating, in the arena. That's just, you bring all the fan bases together, all the teams together, and you duke it out for a week, and the team that gets hot that week, goes dancing.
Yeah. I've been pushing for it to be at Mohegan. I'm waiting for Mohegan to get a shot. Whether that happens or not, we'll have to wait and see. I don't want to see it at Sienna's Arena every year. I don't think that's fair. That said, if they know they can draw there, I don't have a problem with it being a part of the rotation. Just not every year. It's a recruiting advantage to say you host a MAC tournament every year, flat out. So I don't think anybody in the MAC deserves that kind of edge. But part of a rotation of 3-4 sites, absolutely. So we'll see what the new MAC commissioner, whoever that might be, is interested in doing there. I am not interested in being the new MAC commissioner. I was nominated, I think, on Twitter and on the Iona message board. It's not happening, people. Gaelforce, are you going to be the new MAC commissioner?
No.
I think we solved that one right away. Okay. Well, I think we've covered just about everything else. Is there anything else you want to talk about today while you're here live with me in West Haven, Connecticut?
No, I just want to thank Guy for meeting up. This is a lot of fun. I'm urging all Iona fans and MAC fans subscribe on YouTube to the Iona Hoops podcast. It's year round. You won't find any other mid-majors doing it. And let's just look forward to a good, healthy season for all the programs.
Yeah, that's the other side of it too. Is that sometimes the MAC standings are decided by who's healthy and who's not, and only in Iona has the depth to withstand a significant injury. Knocking on wood as I say that, we this league. I want to see this league back up to where it was, get them back into the 15 to 18 range in the computer into the conference ratings. I think we scratched around 19 or 20. I think we ended up last year. That was a lot due to St. Peter's run. Oh, and maybe I'll ask you about that as we close here. Nobody. I mean, we're all pissed at Shaw right now for saying basically, Iona kiss off from Seton Hall's not playing you at the Garden. But that aside, what were you thinking watching St. Peter's last year?
It was incredible. To be honest, when they won the first game, I was like, damn it, that should have been Iona. Yeah. But as they kept on winning and kept on winning and kept on winning, I became a huge SPU fan, and I wanted them to win it all. It was awesome. Yeah, I mean, that's just, especially, and it's just St. Peter's too, the team that draws the least in the MAC, gets that reputation of being this awful little campus in a big city or bigger city compared to some of the other places in the MAC. And then for them to experience that, I mean, what it does is open up dreams for everybody. Why not us? Is now the phrase that you're going to hear 300 other schools say. So, hey, well, that's what better way to start our preview season here, season 3 of the IonaHoops.com podcast, and getting into our preseason mode than to talk about what we dream about with St. Peter's. And now you guys experienced me with a host who can keep up with me in terms of not shutting up about the Gales. So I'm sure you guys were appreciative of the different approach to this pod. We'll try to do more of these, depending on where some of my fellow Gale fans are located. Super, I am not coming down to Florida to do this with you. But anyway, it's going to be a fun season. I can't wait. And thank you for coming on and joining me. Thank you. Let's go Gales.
Let's go Gales. Thanks a lot. Well, that was a fun podcast, doing it live here in West Haven with Gaelforce. Thanks for coming on, man. I appreciate it.
Great time, Guy. It was just advise all you to subscribe on YouTube. We're lucky enough to have a podcast all year long. Take advantage of it.
And it's preview season here now on the pod as we get ready for the season. So come on back and listen on. Thanks a lot for listening. Take care.
Thank you for listening to this edition of the IonaHoops.com podcast. This podcast is a production of IonaHoops.com and its publisher Guy Filatico. The opinions shared during this podcast are those of Guy Filatico, IonaHoops.com, and any featured guests. This podcast is not affiliated with Iona College Athletics or the college itself. Thank you for supporting IonaHoops.com.